Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 54 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, November 27th, and we have got a guest on this week. We've got a guest in a couple of different capacities. We're going to talk to our guest about broadcasting, and we're going to talk to our guest about the fact that he is a boys basketball coach in the area. Josh Zink is nice enough to be on the show with us today, and We've talked to Josh a little bit in a couple of different capacities in recent months because he was the broadcaster that was bringing the North Clay baseball games to the radio locally when they won their state championship this spring.
And now Andy does TV. He goes both sides.
Does he do that? TV. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And also he's got a different hat on now because the boys basketball season is underway and he is the North Clay High School boys basketball coach. If I were a professional interviewer with a little bit more tact, I would know how many years he's been doing that, but we'll get into that. Josh, thank you for taking some time out of your Sunday evening to join us tonight.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thanks a lot for asking, and glad to be here.
So I think just because it's fresh in our minds and fresh in your mind, I think we'll actually start with the basketball talk a little bit because your North Clay boys just played in the championship game of the Cumberland Thanksgiving Tournament last night and drew a number 6 seed in that tournament, which I get that early season tournaments, it's kind of hard to seed them. And
tough. That's harder than our Christmas tournament to seed
but you knocked off the 3 and then the 2 to get to the championship game, and then you gave the number 1 seed Casey team everything they wanted and lost a 55-54 final in the championship game and gave yourselves a chance right up until the very end to try and sneak a win away from there. But seemed like it was a pretty good start to the season, and probably has you feeling pretty good about where your boys are at.
Yeah, we're excited about the start of the season. Just in general, this is a group we've been looking forward to for a couple of years, as was last year's group, and real excited about the couple wins there in the Cumberland Turkey Tournament. That's a really good tournament. There's a lot of really good teams in that tournament. And we got in that tournament last year just to kind of push ourselves to face some really good competition right off the bat, kind of get hit in the face with it, determine what we're pretty good at and determine what we're not good at so we can continue to try to improve on things and improve on weakness areas. As far as our results this year, we got Newton in the first round there, and we got Cumberland in the second round, and then just fell just a little short there against Casey. And man, they're a solid team, as were Cumberland and Newton. But really excited about the possibilities of this year. We had those first 2 games there with Newton and Cumberland were barn burners at the same time as the one against Casey was. So we got the 6th seed in that, like Coach Wilson said there. You never know. I didn't feel like we were the 6th seed, but we kind of used it to our advantage once we got the 6th seed as more of kind of being the hunter instead of the huntee. And that's kind of the approach we took. And we played pretty well to start things off. Got a lot to work on, got a lot to improve on. But I was excited about the games and the way the boys played. And I was excited about our following. We had a big crowd there for that championship game last night. Had a good sized crowd for the semifinal game against Cumberland as well. And we're excited about that.
Yeah, you mentioned Newton beat them by 1 point, 63-62. And, Newton always year in and year out, a tough team to knock off, and beat Cumberland 57-50. You talked about getting into that tournament to push yourselves a little bit. And that was the thing I noticed about your schedule last year was that it was a killer. I mean, you guys were playing good teams outside the conference, just at an alarming rate almost. But I feel like it's probably got you in a pretty good place as a program now.
Yeah, well, we want to play those teams. You look at all the good programs, right? All the really good programs play really good competition. it's not that all of a sudden when they come into the conference season, they're surprised by good competition. All the good teams play really good teams, and that's what we strive to be at this point. And I think over the last couple of years, we're starting to take steps in that direction. And that's exciting for North Clay and for Louisville, for me personally. A lot of time and effort, is put into these situations. And so you want to test yourself, and you want to prepare yourself for the conference, and you want to prepare yourself for postseason. But yeah, we've stacked the schedule again this year, same type of strategy. And, sometimes it doesn't, your record doesn't really tell people who you really are when you do that. And I thought last year, come about mid-season towards the end, with the exception of the regional, I thought it really prepared us really well. And so we wanted to repeat that again. We have multiple 2A teams, on the schedule. And we have a couple one 3A team with Alney on the schedule as well. But we're ready to play whoever and just try to get better every night.
Yeah, I mean, last year the record, that's what you mentioned, the records. Yeah, I mean, you guys were 12-18, I think was the final record, something like that. But
13-18.
13-18.
We had one forfeit, so we'll take it.
Yeah. So, but that's
I know that forfeit. I was 1-21 one year, but really I was 2-21 because we had a forfeit that year. So.
Yeah, well, take it, right? It's hard to win.
But that, somebody from the outside just looking at that number only is going to say, well, that's a team that's, okay, sure, but not fantastic. But yeah, I mean, we saw who you're playing, and we saw how you played toward the end of the season and understood. I mean, come the NTC tournament, you guys were not a team that anybody wanted to face. And I think that's the biggest compliment, is to get into those late season situations and have people say, oh man, we gotta play North Clay. This is not a good situation to be in.
Yeah, I mean, that's our goal, right? We want to be a team that people don't want to play most of the time. And, I tell the boys all the time, people just don't give you respect. You have to earn it by winning big games, and then you have to keep it by winning even bigger games. And we want to be respected down here. We feel like our program's going in the right direction. And by playing bigger games and better competition, the respect factors goes up, and it also prepares us for later on in the year. The national trail tournament was, I think we got Diedrich the first round there, and we got past them, and then we were looking forward to playing St. Anthony at that point, and that was a tight game. That was a memorable game for me. I just wish we could have got over the hump and then been able to play in the championship, but we got clipped there right at the end on a big three. And
freshman buried a three.
Yeah, he nailed it on us, and we kind of got lucky because he missed the first one right before that, but then you kind of tip your cap. He got it right back again and drilled it. And for us, it was a heartbreaker. You're just now starting to think about all the things in the first quarter you could have done, make certain mistakes, certain turnovers that would have gained that 1 point. And as a coach, just the other night last night against Casey, you're thinking the same thing on the drive home. Where were baskets early on in that first half that we should have had that we didn't, or where were turnovers going on that may have played a role in us, missing a couple baskets or a couple more additional shots. And you always contemplating those things in your head. But I guess the point is that, we feel like we're playing good enough competition to be able to compete with a lot of the area teams now in 1A, where we kind of needed to build ourselves up to that schedule. And we feel like we've arrived a little bit at that schedule, and now we're ready to compete.
That's a couple things. Well, first off, as we were talking before we started recording, there's an awful lot of Atlanta crap on your wall behind you. And
that's right.
Mr. White is really excited about that because he's the only Braves fan I actually know. Secondly, I was texting Travis Wyatt while you were talking, letting him know I think I found the missing chairs from the bench. So, I like those little North Clay chairs you got there in your man cave, Mr. Zink. That's impressive.
They're old school. These chairs, you know what? I'm glad you bring up Travis. You guys may not know this yet, but we have a brand new floor at the North Clay High School gym. The floor that was there was the original floor, 1948. And so a lot of wax on that floor over the years, a lot of little creaks, a lot of every time you'd walk, It'd creak a little bit, but there was a lot of nostalgia with that floor too. You know, I played on that floor, and it was tough to see it go, but at the same time, the one we've got now is just beautiful. We're so excited, and we look forward to you guys seeing it soon here too. But the floor, we sold a bunch of the floor, and so a lot of people came and got the floor. Former players, former coaches, former just community members, very excited to get the floor. And so we took the proceeds from the floor and bought new chairs for the sidelines. And so we bought chairs for the junior high, and we bought chairs for the high school. And so we actually sold the old chairs here to the public, first come, first serve. So being the coach, I had a little bit of an inside track on those, because those things sold out in like 10 minutes. I mean, it was quick. And so, yeah, the old school chairs are great. And but we sure are excited about the new chairs and the new floor.
Did Ron Reed get to purchase any floor?
I've got a section of floor for Coach. I already talked to him a lot about it. I haven't got it up there to him, but I've got it right over here to the right. And yeah, he's got a section of the floor. And I think we had a basketball for him. There was some other stuff. But yeah, Coach Reed's a real legend down here. So anytime we can honor him, we want to. And Coach and I are close as well. I talk to him quite often, a lot of times just in terms of just friendship, but also basketball. And I want to pick his brain as much as I can, because he's very appreciated.
Yeah, and he's Ron's a good coach. I've got to know him over the years. Coached against him once. We really don't discuss the outcome of that game. It was close, real close. And, well, like you said earlier, what happened in the first quarter, really, it wasn't the 2 or 3 points at the end. It was the first. Yeah. A couple things. First of all, you mentioned with the 6th seed, and then a little later you were talking about respect. Did that word come up in any of your pregame talks, Josh? Hey, they don't think we're good enough. They think we're the 6th best team in the tournament. Did you mention that at all in your pregame?
Sure, I did. Yeah, I mean, you're using
boy.
any tool you can to motivate. And like we didn't, when the 6th seed came up and saw that on the old form there that came in about 3 weeks ago, it was surprising, but at the same time, it was an opportunity for us to get respect. And that's what we looked at for the boys. I said, look, here's the 6th seed. You got 5 teams in front of you. Nobody knows really where they're going to end up in this tournament, but I will really truly think that we're not the 6th seed, and we have to go prove that. Again, we have to earn that. We have to earn that by winning games, not being close, not being excited about competing, actually getting the job done. And that's why, we were disappointed last night when we just fell just that point short there, and it was nip and tuck pretty much the entire second half. And we wanted to get the job done to just get a little more respect, but we have more opportunities now. We have St. Anthony on Tuesday. We have Casey again on Thursday. We actually go to Kentucky this weekend and play. And I don't know if you
got Marshall County.
We are playing down there. We wanted to get our boys kind of a special little trip this year, a little team bonding trip. We have some contacts through one of our board members down there. And so we're playing on Saturday in Kentucky, going to spend the night as a team in Paducah, going to eat dinner together, going to eat breakfast together. They're going to get sick of us, but that's just how it works. And I feel like we'll get better because of that experience, just from a team standpoint. And be honest with you, a lot of these kids, this is an opportunity for them to go somewhere, hang out with their buddies, get closer, and compete in a really good atmosphere.
Heck yes, and that's awesome when you get to do those things. I took kids up to Lyle in a shootout for an overnight trip.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, they're squirrely kids. However, it does in the end. I think it really helps things. Another thing you mentioned, Josh, and I coaches think this way. The average fan usually doesn't. A kid may miss the wide open jumper at the buzzer from 8 feet and you lose by 1. But like you said, you want to look at film and look at missed opportunities in first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. The fourth quarter is what gets the light shined on it. But unfortunately, they all count. Every basket counts the same. And but you're right there. And it is, you go back as a coach and you dwell on missed opportunities early instead, and you try to deflect, especially when people want to be critical of a kid for missing down one, and he's shooting with no time on the clock, and this is the front end of a one, and whatever it is, you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
No, a lot of chances other parts of the game where that shouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, you want to put yourself in a position where the game is not on the line at the end. You want to try to, be able to have a decent lead where one free throw at the end may not make a difference. And like you said, that, that could happen. There could have been a mistake in the third quarter, could have been many mistakes. And yesterday, from our standpoint, there were many mistakes in the first half that you just kind of cringe at. But at the same time, you look at it as an area of improvement. How do we not make those mistakes in the future? And by playing really good competition early on, there are going to be mistakes made that kind of will sometimes shadow themselves if you're playing maybe less competition. So now we've identified some of those mistakes, and tomorrow we work on that tough stuff and then prepare for St. Anthony.
Well, and the thing, when you're dealing with the competition you're playing, come postseason, you're like, oh, we're playing this type of a team. We've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen quick, we've seen big, we've seen, and that's the thing. That's why I love coaches who will have the foresight to see, I've got kids coming. We need to tighten the schedule up because we need to be tested because we're going to be decent. And then secondly, just one starter back. Is that correct?
We have two starters back, Logan Fleener and then Alex Booz. Alex started.
Okay, I didn't remember if Alex started or if he came off the bench, but two pretty athletic kids.
Yes. Yeah. It's pretty wild down here at times, over the years. It was a big deal here in the community if North Clay had a kid that could dunk it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just didn't happen very often. And so when it did, it was really cool. Well, this year we got 3 kids that can do that. And so they're all coming in bunches in this one class. Logan has no problems whatsoever being able to do that. Alex, same way. And then Levi Smith, who is one of our seniors as well this year, has really come on strong physically and with his leaping ability. And so there's 3 guys in 1 year that have that ability and that are athletic. And we want to utilize that athleticism as much as we can.
Sure.
And so it's exciting down here. We even with the loss there last night, our team, our parents and our fans, we traveled really well. And I was so excited to see that side of the gym packed at a decent sized gym for us this early in the season. So there's a lot of excitement with going on down here, and especially with last year, as the boys won the state championship in the baseball, and it's starting to kind of just follow that path, and that's where we've always wanted to be.
Yeah, it feels like there's just a really good small school athletic culture happening there right now. And you pointed out the baseball team, and it's obviously a good leaping off point for people to just get excited and look for the next thing to be excited about. And so, I mean, you're providing them that outlet. I think they understand that. And it looks like you got a pretty solid girls team on the varsity level too, which is nice to see. And, that's, I'm, being from Neoga myself, so another, similar sized town, you understand how people can really kind of coalesce around that, and it creates a buzz around town that everybody talks about.
You're so right with that. And I'm a hometown guy. This is where I grew up. I'd left for the big city for 4 or 5 years there and came back, and just being a hometown guy, it meant something to me. And so now we've got our feet wet early on of my coaching. We got our feet wet with some success, and we've started to build on that. And at the same time, the baseball program has really started to take off in a big way over the last 5 to 10 years with Coach Freck around. And we just feel like, well, you'd mentioned the girls team as well with Coach Adair. They started off, I think they're 3 or 4-0, and the culture around our school right now is exciting, and the community is, as being from Neoga, when good things happen on the sports program for your school, the community really revolves around it. Now you got to win, for that to happen. It goes the other way when you don't win. I mean, sometimes there's numbers, right? But a lot of times the community, and especially Louisville, because we are a very tight-knit community, when things go well with the school, when things go well with the school athletics, people rally around it. And then next thing you know, you see t-shirts on everywhere. Next thing you know, you see kids who may not have been interested in sports. Now all of a sudden it's a no-brainer. They just want to be a part of the winning culture. And that really starts to take off, and it's starting to take off here. And we're really excited about just the overall sports program here at North Clay. And I'm excited to be the head basketball coach here as well.
Yep, that's great.
And Josh, one thing, folks start coming out on, Tuesday and Friday nights to watch home games. But like you said, now when they start traveling, when they drive over to, over to Cumberland and watch a game with a good crowd, and it's not just parents, it's like the old days that, the 10 o'clock fresh soft game in the morning, you got 12 parents in the stands and that's it. But when now they start traveling, now you're doing some things, and that's good excitement. I mean, I did one of your games on the radio last year. I actually did two.
That's right.
And then
I think you did the Altamont game and the Diedrich game.
Yeah, and then I saw you guys at the MTC.
Yes.
And there's a buzz, rightfully so. And I'll tell you, your kids are good kids. I did see the FEM Daily News had pictures. I shouldn't say that front line, but they had their pictures this weekend. I saw, and you're borderline all mullet team right now. So, but I looked hard, didn't see any flat tops, a little concerned, but it's all right. It's early in the year. Early, people get a little motivation as the year goes on. But
that's hilarious.
That's good. It's great to see that buzz.
Yeah, the mullet team is, I've even had a couple of parents, why don't you enforce a hair policy? Well, I could. There's other coaches that do it. It's cool. But from my standpoint, let them have their hair. That's the last thing I'm concerned about. I'm concerned if they're setting a good screen. I'm concerned if they're not staying down on defense, moving their feet. It's just my style. If they want to have their hair a little bit longer. Now, if it's Gene Simmons or Vince Neil, then we may just tweak it a little bit. But I can't tell you enough and brag enough about our kids. We don't have one bad apple, and that's a credit to the parents. That's a credit to our school system, and it's not just this year. It's quite often. Every year we got kids that play hard. I got a text from Coach Flanagan the other night. I always appreciate the after the game text from the former coaches and the former friends, or not former friends, but just friends in general. And he said, that's a nice win. And I said, oh, I appreciate it. And I always appreciate how much he's helped me coach. And he said that he goes, I wish all kids would play as hard as North Clay kids. And I really appreciated that. And I truly believed it and bought into the same thing. Our kids are good kids. They're solid kids. And they do play hard, and I think it's a big credit to. I think it's a credit to the coaching, and I think it's a big credit to the way they're brought up here, and that's a huge credit to their parents and grandparents, not just parents, grandparents. A lot of grandparents involved here in Louisville.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you, your kids do get after it. I enjoy.
Thank you.
When I did that your first game last year when you guys beat Altamont. And, you and I talked after the game, and I said, hey, I want to talk to you about some things because I liked what I saw out of the way your kids approach things. And, you guys were a good fit. And, but yeah, that's one of the things that impresses me the most. I watched some of the turkey tournament, St. Anthony, and I see kids get after it, but they look pissed. Like they're literally trying to hurt someone at times. And no, but when they do, they're blind to everything going on around them. They don't know the basketball principles of what they're supposed to be doing, and they're just wasting energy. And I don't like that. I mean, I like it when kids get after it, but it's with a purpose, and they're a real pain in the butt with a purpose. not just because they're pissed.
Oh, what'd you always tell me, Coach, that they're like gnats on,
Yeah,
and I
pecker gnats.
appreciated
You
our,
can't,
our
you know,
conversation. That's right.
can't
I
get rid
appreciated
of
our
them.
conversation last year, and always will appreciate that conversation. And it was a good, it's a way we want to be able to play. We want to bother the other team. And we want to make things uncomfortable. Does it always work? No, but if you do it consistently, and you do have kids that will go above and beyond, and just working their tails off, you have an ability to beat teams that sometimes you shouldn't beat. And
Exactly
we were
right.
there some last year, and I think we're going to be there some this year. But yeah, our kids work extremely hard. And if you can combine that with a little bit of coaching and some systems, and then you can normally get some pretty good results. And it's an exciting start to our season, winning 2 out of the first 3 at the turkey tournament.
Now, Tuesday, are you at home or are you coming up here?
That's at Louisville.
We're at
That's
Louisville, so that's our first home game. And so
Okay.
we're hoping to pack the gym like it's back in the 90s and the 80s, and where the stage is full, where the grandstands are full, and there's people standing under the basket. That's how it used to be here in Louisville, especially, you're getting old when you say, especially when I played, but that's how things were back in the day when we had success. And you're starting to see some of that again. Now, will we get them all packed like that? Will we even pack it Tuesday night like that? We'll see, but I think the potential's there again. And when you have a nice little gym, ours is not crazy little, but it's not huge either. It gets real loud.
Cozy.
Yeah, sure.
It's cozy.
That's perfect, Coach.
Hey,
Cozy.
Speaking of when you played, what year did you graduate, Josh?
I graduated in 1994.
Okay, so you weren't.
I was
trying to think. I was trying to think who, when I was at St. Anthony, when we got one of my last years there, Louisville beat us at, I believe it was the T-Town Regional.
Yeah. So our regional.
Is that Justin Fleener?
Now that would have been Justin 1990, I believe they won the regional at T-Town, upset Teotopolis. I can still remember me setting up in the corner, getting ready to storm the floor when the Cardinals beat the Shoes by 2. And still remember it. Gives me goosebumps. But in 1994, we were 25-2 under Coach Reed, and we got beat in the regional final by the #1 team in the state, T-Town. It was Mike Horn, Brent Nieberge, Swingler, Joe Gear, and
Pretty solid group.
It was pretty crazy because they were 25-0 and we were 25-1. And my team was Chris Fleener, me, Chet Allen, Craig Peterson, Steve Welty, Toby Pierce, Andy Haynes. We had a lot of good guys that year, and we did not believe we were going to lose that game. We ended up losing it by 6, and then Pinckneyville upset T-Town up at the Champaign.
Yep.
But heartbreaker, still hurts.
Oh yeah, I think I was, because I was with Dave Bartlett 86, 87, 88, and 89. Those 4 years, and somewhere in there, I want to say, I thought North Clay beat us in the regional.
Yeah, that would have been.
And I forget what.
That would have been,
about 87,
so it would have been 89 or 90. Now Louisville beat St. Anthony, upset St. Anthony in the semis, and then upset T-Town to win it, and then played Robinson in the sectional, and Robinson ended up getting beat by those good Flora teams with Lieb and Locum and those teams under Coach Welch.
Yeah, I had to coach in a JV game against Curtis Lieb. He's hard to coach in a JV game.
Yeah, I can imagine. He was a beast. He's a wonderful person, by the way.
He was a big, and he was a big boy.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Chris and Justin Fleener, and obviously we've already talked a little bit about Justin's boy, who is such a good player for you, and somebody that Mike and I talked a lot about last year, because it's not just that he can score a lot of points, but it's that he can do it in a lot of different ways. He's got a lot of game, just in terms of being able to hit the mid-range shot, which you just don't see very much anymore. Kids can go to the basket, kids can hit the 3-pointers, but kids don't want to pull up from 12 or 15 anymore. And he's very much able to do that And yeah, like Mike says, elevate on that jumper and get it up over anybody.
You can count the kids on one hand in the last 5 years I've seen who will actually elevate over someone and shoot a jump shot, and not just from 10 or 12 feet. He'll elevate on the perimeter because, and I love that aspect. That's the old school, somebody getting up and shooting a jump shot. You see kids today, hey, we're facing the zone, they're shooting set shots from the three and their heels are all that get off the ground. Now I love when I see a kid rise up and shoot the ball the way he does. And
we've worked a lot on that. So that doesn't, over the past 3 years, Logan started since he's been a sophomore. And Logan, as a sophomore, was able to get to the basket pretty good. But at the time, there would be people that would just load up on his drives, and about halfway through the lane, they'd contest every shot. So we started working up on Logan. You can jump so high. Let's go ahead and stop at that free throw line, avoid all of that, and hit those jumpers. And so then it was like a path of, okay, this needs to be your game here a little bit. Your game needs to be a little bit of a mid-range jumper, and you can also get to the basket. Right now, he is getting to the basket because he's so much stronger this year. Him and his dad have been lifting weights for the last 3 years, and now all of a sudden it's like Logan has become much stronger than he was last year. But he got hurt last year, which was a problem for us. I told Logan, a good way of avoiding getting hurt, work on that mid-range jumper where you're not landing on everybody's feet down there in the lane. And he just worked on it, Coach. He just worked on it, and we worked on it with him. And now all of a sudden he loves that shot. And it really opens up the game for him now too, because teams know he can make that shot. So now we can dribble fake, we can ball fake, and we can now get to the basket, whether it's not so contested. But his ability right now to get to the basket along with his mid-range game is eye-opening at times. He's so much, like I mentioned, he's so much stronger, so people can't bully him around as much. He's more bullying everybody else getting to the basket. And he has upgraded his game since last year already. And
that's good. I'm excited to see him because I was very impressed with him last year.
Yeah, and he wasn't healthy. He missed 8 games there with his ankle injury. And then when he came back, he had to wear one of the darn ankle braces. So he's always kind of worrying about it, always worried about re-injuring it, not comfortable in the ankle brace. And so even though he let it rip a lot and scored a lot of points and made our team a lot better, he was playing with that in the back of his head. And now this year, no ankle brace, ankle feels great, and just cutting it loose. And he is impressive.
Yeah, he's off to a great start at the Cumberland Tournament. Scored, damn near 90 points in 3 games. And so that's about as much as you can ask for. And it's always good, as much as you want to have multiple weapons and have lots of people who can score for you. It's always nice to have the one kid that in a big situation wants to take the shot, and it feels like he can be that guy for you. And that's something that a lot of teams just simply, they don't have that kid.
Yeah, we have that kid this year, and it's definitely Logan. Now we also have compliments to Logan this year with Alex Booz, who just played a heck of a tournament. He was on the all-tournament team at Cumberland. So proud of Alex's effort. And then Levi Smith as well as another senior, just really developing and adding another piece to the puzzle here. And then we got some younger kids that have started to play a little bit too, but we got some juniors with Jesse Widener and Ethan Kinsler. Those guys have really only played JV ball and now have upgraded to varsity ball and have been doing well. We have a couple freshmen now that have started playing quite a bit of varsity already, and Cody Zimdars and Carter Walden. And so, we're excited about some of these new faces, along with some of the older faces in Logan and Alex and Levi. And back to your point, it's not a surprise that, and I hope it's not a surprise to people, that our offense a lot of times is going to run through Logan. Logan's going to touch the ball 2 or 3 times, hopefully on a possession. Don't feel like I'm giving anything away here, but like when you have somebody of that caliber, you're going to have to utilize him, because that type of talent and athleticism around here doesn't come around all the time. And so
Sure.
when we are in a big shot situation, the ball needs to be in his hands, and then he can create. The other day he created and then dished it off to Cody Zemdars for a big three. So even with the ball in his hands, if he doesn't take the shot, he is creating opportunities for other people.
Well,
Yeah, because he's going to draw attention every time he touches it, thus opening up opportunities for teammates. And the other thing,
Exactly.
with a kid like that, because he'll draw obviously everyone's number one defender. It's boxing, it's this and that.
Yep.
And I had a kid who could shoot it, and we used to use him. I used him as a screener, and we could just screen and flare cut people to death because
you can't help
he'd
off.
set the screen. He was only 5'8", but he'd set a pretty solid screen, and people would hedge, and then he'd just pop and.
You can't help off, and then all of a sudden, when you can't help off, other people become open.
Oh yeah,
if you set a good screen.
You set a good screen. If that guy's not going to leave you to hedge, you turn the corner, you can go. And now there's all kinds of other problems happening. So it's a great tool to have and to use, and that's awesome.
Yeah, we're blessed to have Logan and really everybody on the team. Really proud of our boys, just all the way from the freshman level all the way to the senior level. Coach, we've got 27 kids out this year.
Awesome.
That's a huge number for North Clay.
Yeah.
When I started, we only had a handful of them, and we only won. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You've barely exceeded my golf team by about one kid. I'm just telling.
Well, yeah, I tell you, it's a good problem to have when you got to order more jerseys, and you're just crossing your fingers to make sure they get here in time, and they have, thank goodness. But it's a good sign for us that the community really has adopted the basketball and baseball programs here. And we feel pretty good about it. And again, just real proud of our boys.
But and Josh, that's how you build the program. You now get kids, maybe like you said, coming out now, getting involved. Yeah, they're not going to be your stars, but man, they're either valuable role players or that kid in practice. He just, the game's too quick for him, maybe. On a big time night, but man, in practice, he's a pain in the ass because he does what he's supposed to do, guarding people. And that's how you develop programs. It's not 2 kids, it's a lot of kids. And I'm glad to hear those numbers.
Yeah, thank you, Coach. I always tell the boys too, some of these kids, maybe the first time they've played and everything, but there's something to be said about being a part of a group with one common goal. There's something to be said about being on a team and being accepted by 25 other individuals. Just in life in general, wouldn't it be great, after you graduate high school, that you're still with a group of people that you're just trying to get one thing. And that's the way we look at it here, is that we've got 26 kids that are all focused on getting better and all focused on one common goal, and that is to be a successful basketball program and to win games. It's not easy to win. And so those kids play a big role in practice. Those kids play a big role on the bench. They cheer on their teammates. They have enthusiasm, and I'm real proud of them. I just always want them to stick it out. It always bothers me when 1 or 2 of them drop, because I think of what could have been for those, and we haven't had much of that the last couple of years.
Well, Coach, I'm excited to see how you guys fit into the NTC this year. I'm going to be Greg and I are coming down Tuesday night for your game with St. Anthony to get that one on the radio. So I'll be
great.
And I think the league is going to be fun this year. I think you guys are going to be a big part of that scene, and it'd be interesting to see. And I want to move forward because we made certain promises to you about how long we would keep you on here. We're already butting up against it, but we can't not talk about the fact that you also got a chance to go up to Peoria in the spring and bring those state championship baseball games to the local fans who couldn't make the trip on the radio. And you mentioned you're a hometown guy, and I have to imagine that and as a person who got to do the Neoga girls games from the state tournament and know that so many people that I cared about were back home listening to me, I'm sure that was a thrill for you to get a chance to go do that and to see them win a title.
It was the thrill of a lifetime for me. Being a hometown guy, I grew up dreaming that the North Clay Cardinals were going to win a state championship, and it was going to be in basketball, or it was going to be in baseball. And it's every little kid's dream and it may still be, I'm sure it is, but when you grew up in the 80s and the 90s in a little itty bitty town, you looked up to a lot of those guys that were on the basketball and the baseball teams, and you always wanted to be one of those guys, and you always felt like maybe your group was the group that was going to shock the world and win the state championship. And unfortunately, obviously, that never happened for us, but for a group of boys from Louisville and the community, it was everything for us. It was a great group of guys. From my standpoint, I have broadcast many baseball games over the last 7 years and a few basketball games prior to me becoming the coach. And one of the most memorable times had to be the fact that winning this last spring, winning the sectional, being able to broadcast the sectional baseball game, which was really tight against Windsor Stu Strauss there at St. Anthony, then being able to go and broadcast the super sectional game down at Carbondale, and then just dreaming of what could be here. And the state championship, the state semifinal, you had no idea how we could compete against those teams. We beat that team down pretty decent. We thought, hey, we've got a chance here. And so then that night I'm thinking, okay, I'm in the hotel room after that game thinking, I'm going to get to broadcast the state championship game tomorrow, and it would be tremendous if we could win it. And it all came together, and we did win it. And it was pretty crazy because I was doing the radio for WNOI, which I've always enjoyed broadcasting baseball games. I played baseball in college at Eastern. It was my first love. It still is a big part of what I like to do. I don't watch a whole lot of baseball on TV anymore, but I enjoy broadcasting the baseball games because I feel like I have some insight there, and then just enjoy it in general. But Roy and I, Roy Taylor's my assistant coach, we've been doing it for a long time. And what was great about it at one point is on the WNOI website, it crashed. And we were bragging about it the whole time. Hey, we crashed the WNOI website. It's all about Roy and I. In reality, it was all about people listening to the state championship baseball game. So quite a thrill, once in a lifetime opportunity. It'd be great if we could get the chance to do it again. Our baseball program is on the rise, so it wouldn't be not surprising, but all things have to work out in order to get to that chance, in order to get to that state championship game. And being the hometown guy, it meant a lot to me. And I was very enthusiastic because of my memories, and also just wanting to see the town get their state championship, and we got it. And they can never take it away from our community. A lot of people over the years have been close in regional championships, in the sectionals, and haven't been able to get it. And those boys were able to get it for all of us. So we were thrilled about it.
Now, Josh, you and Dustin, you've got a similarity, and no one's probably told you this, because I listened to you guys. I was talking back and forth between Greg and you guys on baseball. And then especially Dustin doing the Neoga Girls Super when they went to state. You both had your Peter Brady moments. You had those little voice cracks in puberty there, getting a little excited, getting a little emotional, and it was awesome. Trust me, I was dying laughing because, especially when you were calling the last out of the game.
Yes.
You just, and the best part was you didn't let Roy talk for like 2 minutes. I didn't even know he was there. And I got to give Roy grief because I run into him all the time at golf matches and stuff. And
Roy's
like
great.
you said, you got to, when he yells ding dong when you guys get a homer, but that's what Pedro Martinez does. If you ever see him on a Fox show, he's kind of doing the same thing.
Yes.
But it was so good because, you're very, are you a homer? No, but you're enthusiastic.
Yeah.
So,
I
that's
think
a good thing.
That was a point where I wanted to be enthusiastic. It was a big deal for our community, and I wanted to be enthusiastic the entire time. I'm just an enthusiastic person. You'll see me on the court, and I'm pumping my fists at times. I mean, that's nothing against the other teams in any way, but I feel like nothing can be done without a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of passion. And the North Clay Cardinals being on the verge of winning the first state championship in school history in any sports brought a ton of enthusiasm out of me on that last out. And I just started reminiscing, again, when you're getting old, you start reminiscing about all the teams throughout the years that would have loved to have been in that position, and all the community members that had been to so many ball games throughout the years, good and bad, that were sitting at home just appreciating the moment. And I appreciated bringing the moment to them. It was quite an honor.
That's great. It's kind of hard. It's hard to put it into words for me, but that's pretty much hitting the nail on the head. And so happy for you that you got
Thank
that
you.
opportunity. And obviously I couldn't listen to you because broadcasting those games myself. But yeah, great moment, and glad you got to do it.
Yeah, I am too. I really appreciated the moment, and it's kind of funny, a little insight about, I didn't really have a whole lot planned of what I was going to say because I didn't know if that moment was going to happen. And so then about 6 outs left, I thought I better figure out what I'm going to say here because I don't want to be caught with not figuring out or not knowing what to say here. And I just didn't want to say, oh yeah, hey, Cardinals, hey, they won the state championship. I really felt like, hey man, we got to figure out a way of making this memorable. And I felt like it was. And so just appreciated the opportunity to call the game for the community of Louisville and Clay County. We had a ton of people all over the county, Flora, Clay City. They were all rooting for the Cardinals. And that was a good feeling because, those over the years have been quite the rivals. And at that one moment, we were all together, and it was really awesome.
Well, and I don't think just those towns, but I mean, I would imagine that they had people pulling for them all across the region. I mean, the national
I think so too.
The National Trails had such a good run of baseball success in the postseason lately that it's kind of a point of pride by now, that we send one of those schools deep into the tournament and they go make some noise and make everybody proud. It's a thing, it's a great, it is a great baseball conference. It's a great basketball conference.
It is.
Right now, but,
We're really appreciative of being in the National Trail Conference. We're the newest member. We're the new guy on the block now. New guy meaning 6 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But we appreciate the more than probably people know, being a part of the National Trail Conference. It's a wonderful competitive conference. Huge fan bases for every school. The environment from a basketball standpoint, the environments you go into the National Trail are awesome. I mean, it's always interesting because I'm an active coach, so I am constantly yelling and constantly motivating and encouraging. And there's so many times where I have the other opposing crowd just barking at me, and it's okay. I'm all right with it at times. It's like, okay, this is the atmosphere you want to be in. You want to be able to win games in this type of atmosphere. And I know there were a lot of people in the area that were rooting for our Cardinals just because of the connection with the conference. And I also think there were a lot of people in the area that were rooting for our Cardinals because we're from a small town. Sure. And there's a lot of small towns that can relate. And I mean, I can even go back when I was a kid, seeing Greg Fiesel's St. Elmo, St. Elmo getting to the Elite Eight, and that team, and just rooting for them because they were such a small community like we were. And hey, there's hope here. They made it. That was a long time ago now, but it's a tremendous conference to be in. We're really appreciative of being a part of it, and we're happy to bring the state championship to the National Trail. One last thing on that. There was a lot of talk because South Central won the state championship last year, and then we won it this year. And there was a lot of people that wanted to name the Kinmundy Road from Louisville to Kinmundy Baseball Alley. And so we're still working on that. We'll see if the state of Illinois will let us do that. But I don't think it'll come to fruition, but we thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I would shoot for it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And it's the area, and Dustin, we've mentioned this before, we go back to when Dad was our very first guest. And that's the thing he talked about, getting a chance to follow someone deep in the postseason from this area. It's almost every year in a lot of different sports. And it does. It just, that's what happens. And it's, people think, oh, you guys give, why do you care so much about? So, well, it's thread. It's woven.
Exactly.
That's what we are.
And it's always funny too, because you can compare it to, hey, you may not like your brother or sister, but if somebody else says something bad about them, you're in there defending them. And I feel like that's how our whole area is. When it comes time for teams to win championships, you've got a lot of schools and a lot of community members throughout the towns rooting for that one single team. It's nice.
Well, Josh, we've kept you for almost an hour, but we did want to get one.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
We wanted to get one more.
He's got a movie on pause right now. I'm just saying he's got to get back to.
We've got Christmas vacation planned, but I've enjoyed sitting down with you guys, your class act. So I appreciate the time.
We have our Attaboy of the Week award that we give out during. We started giving out during the basketball season last year. We're getting started on it again, and since you're with us, and we already mentioned the kid, but Logan Fleener, he had a heck of a tournament. You said he was the MVP. Is that correct?
He was the MVP of the tournament
at the Cumberland Thanksgiving Tournament. Scored more than 25 in every game. That's
27? Yeah,
he averaged about 27, 28 there.
And so, I can't think of anybody better to give it to. So
great.
We're gonna have Logan be our first Attaboy winner of the season. And Mike, I've been searching for it on my computer while we're talking.
You've lost our soundbite.
So you're just gonna have to do it. You're just gonna have to say it, and then I'll have it ready to go for the next one.
All right. Well, he gets the Attaboy Luther from the world's greatest movie, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken. That's where we get the Attaboy of the Week.
Nice.
That's the screensaver on my phone is the movie poster.
I don't know what I did with that audio file, but I've been frantically searching for it for the last three minutes.
We'll discuss that in your annual evaluation, Whitey. I can assure you of that.
Well, if you fire me, you fire me. So Josh, we appreciate you coming on. I could ask you questions for another hour, and maybe we'll do that sometime. But great talk. Great to have you. Looking forward to seeing your boys team in action Tuesday night, and we will see you then.
And let Logan know. I know he'll be excited because I don't think he shared that last pizza with his dad. So again, that's a good reason not to share.
Oh yeah. He'll need to keep that to himself.
We probably we'll mail it to you down maybe, and then let you give it to him because Justin was in the line. Yeah, and it's just it's kind of. We had to crop him out and stuff.
Yeah.
We may probably just have.
We'll knock him out to the side. We'll get it to Logan. And he doesn't have to share this time. But hey, I want to say thanks so much for having me, and appreciate the time, and appreciate you letting us talk about our basketball and baseball program down here at North Clay.
Awesome. Well, we've been wanting to have you on, and I just finally told Dustin. I said, hey, I was gonna reach out to you, and then, like I said, after you beat Newton the first night, I sent you the text that night and see if you were going to be available. So I'm just glad you won. I don't know who we'd have had if you'd got beat, So.
Well, that was the speech I gave to the boys right there. Hey, we got to win so I can be on the Whitey and Will's podcast here. So,
good call. I like that.
Oh man.
Thanks for having me though, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Josh, we'll let you bail out on the call. Mike and I have a few other things to talk about on the show, but thanks again, and we'll be seeing you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, bud.
All right.
See you later.
That's Josh Zink, boys basketball coach at North Clay, accomplished broadcaster. He's
good start to the season. The most kid I knew, he started. I never did remember if he was starter, six man. He played a lot, but I remember the Smith kid coming in off the bench about 8 men or something, and You think, if I remember right, you think Logan and Alex can get up? You ought to see this kid. I
Yeah.
mean, he's got serious hops.
Well, early returns in the NTC, and it's yeah, it's a week of games, so you can't make any big
They're
judgments.
off to a rousing start.
But yeah, you look at how the conference teams did, and North Clay is showing that they're going to be in that conversation. They're going to be in that conversation when the conference title is decided. So that's exciting. That's good.
Altamont made Matt Robinson drive all the way up to almost Peoria, and I'll tell you what, they had Morton down 11-0 in that game. They battled, and I think they finally just got worn down by the bigger, a big school.
Matt said he was texting us scores, while we were on the air bringing the 2 games from the St. Anthony tournament to the radio. But Altamont was up after a quarter, and he said they were in foul trouble though. So you can tell that he was already a little concerned about how it was going to turn out. But that Altamont team's going to be, they're going to be very good, and they've got a very good individual player of their own.
Yes, they do. Actually got a couple good players. So.
Yeah. I mean, Mason.
I got to do the Altamont North Clay game last year. I'd like to do that one again this year.
Yeah, it should be interesting. So we could pick a few things from this week that happened to talk about. We've already been on for an hour, so I don't want to drag on for too long.
Let's just touch on the turkey tournament a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get to St. Anthony. I just want to mention real quick that the St. Anthony girls did win. They won the Robinson Thanksgiving tournament. I've got scores, but I don't have individual scoring information yet.
Right. And T-Town, I think I mentioned, I thought they had won that tournament at Centralia. They actually got second.
Yeah.
I think Carterville beat them in the finals. So, I mean, they're off to a good start. The girls teams are off to a good start.
Yeah. Highland beat T-Town.
Highland beat them. That's right.
But, the Altamont girls won down at the Bob Kearns tournament.
They beat Jeff in a real close game. 52-50.
Yeah. That Altamont team, those girls, their last 4 games, they've scored 50, 50, 50, and 52. So they're consistent. And the other thing that's consistent is they've won all 5 they've played. And really, you look at some of the girls teams in the area, St. Anthony's 6-0, Neoga, Altamont 5-0, CHBC 5-1, although Diederich beat them in the championship of the CHBC.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I went and watched the Cumberland girls play. I'm a friend of the coach there with Cumberland, so I wanted to see her team play, and they gave Diederich a nice game. But that Diederich team is going to be a handful. And then obviously North Clay's got a good team. They're 3-0 so far, and Brownstown St. Elmo 5-1. So the NTC girls, interesting stuff going on there. But and just real quick, touching on a couple other things. The Windsor Stew Straws boys they lost the championship at Cerro Gordo. They got beat by Decatur LSA. But they went
2-1, I believe, there, didn't they?
3-1.
3-1. Okay.
Yeah, they won 3 games, and their coaching situation obviously is in flux with Bob Lockhart stepping down. So I think Shane Smith, who has coached, he's been a coach.
He was there before Cody McCullum, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know if Cody
was Shane
followed him.
Was Shane the Stu Straws coach only, or had they done the co-op already?
You know what? He may have. I just remember when I was on the bench late at T-Town at the NTC, when we were still in the NTC tournament, sitting behind the bench on one of their games, and he was coaching. That would have just probably been Stu. Yeah. That would have been just Stu at the time. So he's been. I think they're making a decision this week. The school board's making a decision this week.
Well, I think it might be tomorrow night that they've got a school board meeting. So
I would assume it's going to be Shane. And I text Bob a little bit this past week, maybe Friday night. As coaches, when that D1 carrot gets thrown at you, especially when you're a coach, Bob's in his 60s.
Yeah.
Just all right. You're going to get a set on the bench at a D1 level. And you're getting paid to do it. I understand. I know I talked to one of the administrators involved who was very supportive of what he did. And he said the same thing. He said, you that's a lifelong dream of almost every coach around here. And he said, it just, the timing. Yeah, I understand the timing, but timing's timing. It's just, there's nothing, you don't control that. And, when someone says, hey, here's a chance for you to kind of do what you've dreamed of doing for an awful long time, that's hard to pass up.
Yeah, I do understand all that. And I think that's, ultimately where I fall on it. But, it's a tough situation for the kids.
Sure it is.
Because you talk about doing a once in a lifetime opportunity. Well, playing varsity basketball is just that for those.
Sure it is.
And so having that turned upside down, maybe not upside down, but at least getting shaken up a little bit is.
Yeah, but the kids obviously responded well. And,
yeah, they did.
And the one thing, Whitey, you don't always see when you have half of your team is committed to what's going on as a coach is, that's a good situation. Sometimes people as a player who may bellyache about that, maybe a kid is really not committed to it at all, and it just gives them a reason to bitch a little bit. I don't know. But, Bob's a good friend of mine. Like I said, I reached out to him and he was, he just said, Marty had talked to him and it wasn't an easy, he struggled. I guarantee you he struggled making that decision. And,
Sure.
It is what it is, and to move forward.
I don't think you could coach high school sports for as long as he has and not struggle with it, because you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do it for as long as he has if you didn't care about the kids.
Yeah, Bob's not in it for the money. Bob's not in it for, oh my God, I might be an NTC coach of the year. No, Bob does it because he loves the game of basketball.
Sure. Yeah.
And he loves working with kids. And like I said, I sat on the bench with Bob for a few years at Effingham. Probably I've not dealt with anyone as thorough with his outlook on stuff. Other than maybe forgetting to turn his car off and walk through and letting it run for an hour and a half in the shoot around. Just saying. But that wasn't Matt Toon, by the way. But no, he's a good guy, and I wish him all the luck in the world. And I'm gonna have to go up and catch an Eastern game this year just to heckle him a little bit.
And one other thing, mentioned the Altamont girls, Grace Nelson also already became
Peggy Beaker.
Yeah, she's their all-time leading scorer too. And remember, this is like the first 2 weeks of her junior year. So
you got to be careful when you break the principal's record. If you step out of line in school, they may not act favorably towards you. I don't know.
So she's gonna put that mark maybe out of reach by the time it's all said and done. But
it's a tall order because she's just a junior.
Yeah, just junior. Yeah, she's a special athlete. Out in that NTC Girls Conference is going to be a fun one to watch again this year. But the St. Anthony Thanksgiving Tournament.
I saw several games. I don't know if I know you worked some games. I don't know if I saw as many as you, or maybe.
That was the only night I was there, was that Tuesday night. I saw Effingham's opener, and I saw T-Town play their second game of the tournament. And
T-Town opened with Rantoul, and maybe the best 9 minutes of basketball I've seen them play in a long time.
Well,
but then it was just they just kind of lost. I don't want to say they lost interest or focus.
Well,
Rantoul said, "Okay, Rantoul says we're going to quit turning the ball over." God, they look so good at the start of that game. Their defense just turnover after turnover.
And T-Town ended up falling in the championship game of that tournament to Breeze Central, 44-33. Now, here's the thing. Breeze Central's real good, and they don't look like a team that's playing the first week of the season. That's the thing I noticed about them. I saw
they went pretty deep in the football playoffs. I talked to Jeremy a little bit. He's probably got more football kids who are play meaningful roles than they've had in a while. and they're a little more physical than they've been in the past. You know, Breeze Central kind of had that modern day look to them a little bit. They had some pretty strong kids, pretty aggressive kids on the ball. And then Coach Schubert's son, Jeremy's son, Mason, was MVP. Congratulations to him. Nice player. And Breeze is a great program. I've known, back when I was at St. Anthony, running into them at the modern day tournament. Jeremy was on the bench then, and good group. I always talk to their staff every time I see them somewhere. You know, congratulations to them. That game was tied going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And T-Town Chet's, they've got to figure out, and I'm sure it's driving him freaking nuts. You know, they've played great first halves. Well, now, I didn't see that game, so I don't know. But they've just second half, they let teams back in the ball game.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is I think all three of the teams that we're focusing on that played in that tournament, T-Town, St. Anthony, and Effingham, you know, they all came out of it. And we talked about this when we talked to the coaches, is that you play those early season tournaments, understanding that you're going to find the things you need to work on. And I
Sure.
think they've all got a list now. I mean, you know, and it's
some longer than others.
Yeah. And that's the thing with T-Town is that, yeah, there were stretches in that tournament where they looked, or in some cases just sounded, you know, based on me listening to it on the radio, but where they were fantastic, knocking, you know, just putting points on the board, playing outstanding defense and building big leads. But you're right, finishing games, you know, they had Matt Toon way down early on, and it ended up being a tight game.
Yeah, that one surprised me. And one of our guys on our committee was at every game. He and I talked the two games. We were texting back and forth the two games I was at. I didn't see the Matt Toon game, and I didn't see the Central game. We had things going on, but yeah, they are Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde right now. They look really, really good. And then they make, you know, it's not like, oh, we've built this nice lead. Now it's time for me to do something on my own. They're not falling into that trap, but they just lose. They're not as crisp, especially on the offensive end. And I don't want to say they're not valuing possessions, but, you know, and it's early. They had some turnovers.
Yeah.
And, you know, just kind of, you know, dribble drive kick and just a little lazy pass here, lazy pass there. I think, you know, they've got some rotation that's a work in progress. I really do.
It always is. It always is.
And it's always going to be, but they've got some talent. They really do. And, you know, I saw Caleb Seymour dominate 3 minutes of a ball game, was just dominate.
Yeah.
It's like he was playing. It's like he was playing in the backyard by himself, just dominate. He goes 4 or 5 minutes and doesn't get a productive touch. He may get a touch, but it's not productive. And it's just, it's like little cycles they're getting into. So they're going to be fine. They're really going to be pretty good. I'll tell you what, Effingham surprised me on how they finished the tournament and scoring wise. Boy, after that, you know, that first night I watched them play, I thought, man, Obi's got, a lot of work. And I knew they were going to be down and they were thin and not much experience back. But, to bounce back and then to beat Mattoon the way they did.
Yeah.
At the end, that was big.
Well, they scored 32 points in the first game against Breeze Central, got beat by 26. They were not in that game really.
Oh.
And you kind of walked away from it thinking, well, you know, we obviously didn't know a lot about how this team was going to look, and this wasn't encouraging. But then, you know, the rest of the tournament, they put 66 on the board against.
They scored 66 against Robinson, and
75.
You know, Robinson was kind of the all airport team, man. They look good warming up. That's another group. He's got some work to do there. Looking at them as an outsider who just watches the game, I don't know the kids or anything. There's not this yet. Okay. Yeah. They're not here. They don't have chemistry yet.
That's
you can build that.
That's the case for a lot of teams, and that could very well have been the case, for Effingham too, because
Sure.
and listen, Garrett Wolf, he scored in double figures every game of that tournament. After scoring 12 in the first game, then 22, 23, 32. He's gonna have to be the guy, and there's
Oh, yeah.
But
Garrett, I'll tell you one thing about Garrett. He looks a lot better on the floor this year than he did.
No, I mean, well, he's he's healthy.
He's healing. He's healing. Let's not say he's healthy. But I'm not going to buy him an eye patch because he's not running around like a pirate like he was last year up until through Christmas.
But here's something I look at with that Effingham team from the first game and then the rest of the tournament. The first game you got 12 out of Garrett Wolf, and then you got like 7, 5, 4. Like not much. Then you get Andrew Splector scoring 17, 15, and 17. You get Logan Heil scoring 13, 6, and 14. You get Andrew Donaldson cracking double figures in one game. He scored 12, and they scored 8 in another. There's going to be some confidence that grows. Guys growing into an expanded role. And Splector is a really interesting one to me because Andrew started for Effingham at the beginning of the year last year, and he kind of ended up having to settle for more of a reserve spot, a lesser role on the team. And you're interested to see how he'd respond to getting that second chance in the starting lineup. And he's going to have to be aggressive. He's going to have to be another option. And it looks like he made some strides this week. And Logan Heil he's the only kid they've got with any real size. Okay. And so,
and his biggest, he plays hard, he works hard. He's got to get out of the habit of putting the ball on the floor. He gets in trouble. There's a lot of times he'd catch the ball sometimes on the high post and they'd come up behind him and take it away from him. But that's just coming with experience and doing things, just things you got to learn.
And this Effingham team is going to have to figure out how to rebound with bigger teams, because listen, rebounding is not just a size thing, and that's good news for Effingham because they're pretty small. There's no getting around it. They're just not big, but they're going to have to figure out how to do the positioning. They got out rebounded badly in that Breeze Central. It was and again, those are varsity playing time, additional minutes, additional experience, additional confidence. You can develop that stuff. So I thought that Effingham from the start of the tournament to the end of the tournament probably had the most positive,
I agree with that. I think they improved the most of the teams in the tournament.
Yeah.
Of the three we're talking about. Yeah. I think they showed the most improvement. St. Anthony, I'm not gonna lie, they shocked me beating Robinson to start the season.
The thing with St. Anthony, and St. Anthony won 2, they lost 2. They beat Effingham 55-48, lost to Breeze Central by 16, lost to Highland by 12 in the third place game. St. Anthony they're going to have to find out who besides Brock Fearday can put the ball in the hole once in a while.
Who can consistently score for them. And it's not, hey, you got to have kids scoring 15 points a game, but you got to have a lot of kids capable of scoring 10 a night.
Yep.
And, that Robinson game, they just hung around. I think Robinson had them down 9 at one time, maybe 11. And, they just hung around, and Robinson was sloppy with the ball.
That game,
and then pretty soon St. Anthony started hitting some shots, and the crowd got into it a little bit. And next thing you know, now it's down to 6, and then and then they got the lead, and made some free throws late, and they did a good job. They missed the Rudaball kid, they really do. They don't have that type of player on the floor. But I was texting my wife saying, hey, who's number so-and-so? Who's number so? I don't know a lot of those kids. The night they played Robinson, Griffin Sahe hit a 3 to start the game. He didn't score again until they were inside a minute.
Yeah.
And I think they were kind of looking at him be option number 2. And you see some other kids who were getting their first extended varsity minutes. And man, in the first half of that game with Robinson, the game looked too quick for them.
Well,
But as the game went on, they got to be a little better. They weren't getting balls taken away from them. They were doing a better job on defense. They weren't hesitating when they were open to shoot it. So I think they're going to fight the NTC. Not having a big man kind of hurts them. Griffin defensively, I mean, they guard. That's one of the things that they were doing a little trapping. They were trying to do some things there, and they hurt Robinson. They actually hurt Robinson trapping.
And I think that from the sound of the Robinson game, I'm not sure how representative of anything it can be, for not just because it's first game of the season, but because it just sounded like it was always about ready to spin out of control. Neither team really made any effort to slow it down and get it.
But neither team ran it up to 85 points either, Whitey. It was just, I mean, it was a
lot of up and down, but not a lot of scoring.
Yeah, there was a lot of energy, but not, and it was, one of my things, I think I want to get back into coaching. When a kid's got a breakaway and you're chasing him down, don't go up and contest because you're going to foul him. Let him shoot it, because I'm not convinced they're going to make 2 out of 10. When kids are going full blast on a breakaway, I see too many kids trying to block shots and foul, and I'm literally, you stop and let them go up. They're wanting to get whistled for a foul many times, and I just like to see coaches have kids do that one time, because I think you'll be shocked.
But you talk about St. Anthony and the NTC and what they will still do, and what Cody's teams do is that they have, even if they're not super tall, they've got a little length around the perimeter, and they guard, and they'll make life miserable for a lot of conference teams just on that alone. And it won't necessarily matter, for those purposes, how crisp they are offensively. But I do think, hopefully for them, some guys will figure out what their role needs to be. But obviously the Fearday kid is a special player. He's a sophomore, but he's already he's scoring. He's your double figure guy pretty much every night. Now, I did see that in the third place game, they put a lid on him a little bit, and I assume that was probably by design, and you got the Westendorf kid. Colin Westendorf scored 10 points.
Yeah, he can shoot a little bit. He's he's a nice player. Cody's groups, they're just going to have to muck it up with people. They're going to have to guard. He's got some depth. So it's like, okay, this kid's in a little foul trouble. As long as it's not Faraday per se, they're interchangeable, and they got kids who can play. But defensively, it's just they got to play smart. They're not overly quick. They're okay. They're just not overly quick.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the things that I like the best about T-Town, especially their defense, is their quickness they display and their ability to guard. But then it's like all of a sudden, it's like someone let the air out of the balloon at some point.
Yeah, and that was something that Chet talked about in his post-game interview. Was that we got to do it for 32 minutes. I haven't seen a complete game yet. If they could ever put their high points from any one of those games together for 28, 30 minutes in a ball game, boy, I feel sorry for whoever they play against. But that hasn't happened. It's the first week. I did not mention, when we were kind of quickly running down what some other local schools did, St. Elmo Brownstown also undefeated. Their boys, they went down that Mulberry Grove tournament and got 4 wins. And so I wouldn't want to leave out anybody that won a championship. You know what I'm saying? They got their hardware, and that's a nice deal for them. But we had Josh Zink on tonight, and I really do think that North Clay team is going to make some real noise, and I'm excited to get a look at them Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think so. And you and I talked about this is when we really enjoyed doing our show, because we've got a lot of basketball related things we can bring in and talk about it. And I was down here again today. About every day I check and update my pre-Christmas tournament results so our seating committee can get together. And Whitey, we got an exciting player going to be at this tournament. I mean, I haven't seen kids throw a ball down in transition like that since I was 17 years old playing on an 8-foot rim. I mean, this kid's got some kid from Oaklawn, man, Suleiman, and he's good. And Oaklawn won a nice tournament to start the year, beat Mount Carmel, Chicago Mount Carmel, who's ranked, beat them in the championship game. And Lincoln Way East got off to a 3-1 start. Had a tough defeat to a very good ball club, and there's it's gonna be pretty good tournament coming.
Well, and it's coming, man. It's a month away, so
now we're always in panic mode now because we have had calls this late before the school saying, "Hey, we've changed our mind," and I'm not a happy person. I'm not a good person to be around for a few days when that happens.
Well, all you really need to do is make sure that the hospitality room spread is up to par.
Trust me, it always is.
And that there's always a place for Dustin White to sit at the games, and everything else is kind of secondary.
Hey, and your tops are in whitey, and they're really sharp. You don't like it, and it's your favorite color.
What's that?
Red. The red. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like red. Can't quite call them a favorite, but I have to wear a lot of it because also almost as exciting as your tournament getting started is pretty soon my daughter's 5th grade team is going to start playing some games, and so I'm strapping in for that.
Hey, don't send me any video. I know you sent me a video clip of the game this week. Don't send me any Max games. Mac was giving me a hard time, by the way. She came down and harassed me because I was supposed to be getting Morgan a water, and then I gave it to someone else, and Mac kind of harassed me. Well, but I will say this. I said, "Here, Mac, go buy Morgan a water, and what do you want?" I tried to give her money to get something. She
wouldn't even take money from me to go for the concession. She's all about it all of a sudden. We went to a lot of games last week too. She wanted to go with me. We went and saw some games in Neoga. They had their 2nd annual Mary Sir.
I saw that, and that's awesome. I love the fact knew Mary very well. Great person. She always brought me candy at Halloween.
Yeah, she was one of a kind, and
yes, she was.
I can't imagine a more pleasant human being than Mary Sir.
Nicer.
It's a very good deal for Neoga to honor her that way, and I'm glad that tournament is continuing. But we went to see a lot of ball games. She tagged along with me, and hopefully apologies to Morgan for getting her ear talked off for two games.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. When we got home, Morgan was laughing because she goes, "Dad, that's how I was as a kid. I just talk. She goes, it was awesome," because she said back, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much." And Morgan goes, "Oh no, it's actually I'm kind of enjoying it." So
yeah, well, every once in a while, I'm sure, but if it's an everyday thing, it could possibly grate on you a little bit. I've lived it.
I did give her grief because I haven't seen any cookies. So she said she's kind of on shutdown right now. I don't know if it's a supply chain issue or what's going on.
Well, no, because I'll tell you, we took a trip to Sam's Club a couple 3 weeks ago and bought the biggest bag of chocolate chips I've ever seen, and a big thing of vanilla, imitation vanilla also so it's just a matter of having time, man. It's a busy time of year, so we'll get back on the bacon eventually. But listen, nobody watching this cares about that, I think, and they're probably saying it's an hour and a half. These guys need to shut up. But basketball season's in full swing, and also Logan Fleener again. Congratulations to Logan.
Our initial, and thanks to Joe's Pizza and Pizza Man for being our sponsors again this year. We reached out to them, and originally I think the response from Joey was, yes, say we're doing it, and then have Greg supply all the gift cards. But no, they're both in, and I appreciate that. Pizza Man. I don't know if they still do. They always used to have pictures of teams that won, junior high teams that won state on the walls. And Greg, I actually coached Greg when I student taught. Coached against Joey. I was on the bench at St. Anthony when Joey played at Olney. So good, two great businesses in town, supporting the Attaboy of the week. So we'll get that down to Logan and get that started. And I've got some guests who are, when I talk to them now, they're like, yeah, I'll be on. So we're starting to get people lined up. Well, I don't have dates set for people, but I've got an interesting one. You're going to ask me if that's really what I wanted to do, but we'll see.
Well, if nothing else, there's just a lot of ball to talk about now. So we're
very much so.
Exciting time of year, but we probably wrap it up for this week.
Okay.
Thanks to Josh Zink for taking the time to join us. And listen, when John Freck, the baseball coach from North Clay, came on, we pulled some pretty good numbers, at least by our standard. And so I think
Zink's got a lot of relatives. We'll probably get good viewers here.
Yeah. All right, Mike. So we'll call it a wrap for this week, and we'll get back together next week, talk some more basketball.
Sounds good, Whitey.
All right, we'll see you.